It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
So I really wanted to bring you on the show because numerous things. First one being like our family has been through a lot these past few years. And so has our relationship. So has our relationship with our kids. Like it has been nothing but a nonstop roller coaster, to be honest. And I feel like being able to share that with people could help a lot of people who are going through the same thing, especially when it comes to dealing with having to Baker Act someone or Merchman Act someone or having to confront your own shit in order to move forward. All of it's, that's what we're going after for tonight.
Got it.
So we're also doing a lot of things differently tonight. We are here in the evening, which we're usually here in the morning. We are drinking, what are we drinking?
High noon.
High noons. That's her favorite. This is my girlfriend, Kelly.
Hello.
We've been together 5 years now. Actually, 5 years to the day. Because I think we decided to start dating the day your ex-boyfriend punched me in the face.
Yeah, that's kind of a crazy story, though.
It is, and most of it's yours to share. So I'll start it off. But so we just started dating. She was my boss. Keep in mind.
Great.
We just met. Not just met. Sorry, we started dating a year after we met. But we were working at the same place. She was the manager, and I was just a regular line cook. And actually, I remember talking about you to my brother-in-law, my brothers. I talked about you to everybody. It's true.
I honestly, I feel like it kind of just started out of nowhere. Well, first, I had just gotten out of a toxic ass relationship. Awful. But I feel like I definitely knew that you were interested. I feel like all the other employees shared that. And you were just somebody super cool to talk to. And that's kind of just went from there. I had taken some time to myself, been single, and I felt like, well, I wasn't looking for a relationship, mind you. Like we just kind of...
Neither was I. I think that's kind of why both of our guards were down, because I was dating my son's, Peter's mom, and you just got out of a relationship. And you're also older than me. So like, I was afraid to even approach you with anything.
Well, after my previous relationship, I was like, I'm done. Like, I need a minute. And it really was about a year almost.
So you took a year off?
Yeah. But that didn't stop him from thinking I couldn't be with anybody else or interested in anybody else. So I want to say it was Father's Day.
It was Father's Day 5 years ago.
We were deciding to just hang out. You were at my house and cool. This guy, my ex, decides to randomly stop by. And his reasoning was because we were together for 5 to 6 years, I want to say. And he felt he was obligated to be able to see Sabrina,
and Sabrina,
my daughter, because it was
13
Father's Day
at the time.
She was 13, yes.
13 at the time that I entered the picture, and this event happened.
She was 7 when we started dating, him and I. So they were together. Like, you know, he was in our lives for a little while. But it was Father's Day. He was mad that we did not reach out to him. He was mad that she didn't call him or text him. This is the same guy that, you know, I've been blocking, who's been harassing me extremely.
I remember at work, too, like he left big ass messages on your car.
Yeah, like
he was
totally
out of control.
Correct. And after that event, I ended up getting a restraining order and everything. But yeah, completely out of his mind crazy. And the most toxic situation you could be in. He decides to randomly pop by while you're at my house.
We were in the back because I was smoking a cigarette and probably a joint.
Yeah, literally just sitting on our back porch, just just hanging out, nothing crazy. But I fucking freaked the hell out.
Freaked out.
And I remember hearing his name or hearing him call my name, I want to say. And I'm like, you got to go. You got to hide.
She told me to hide.
And me and him aren't even together. We haven't been together for a year, but I just knew it would be bad because I know how he is.
I did not want to hide. I wanted to
I just wanted as little drama as possible.
And I understood that, which is why I stepped in the bathroom, shut the doors, and just listened. If I even heard the slightest bit of like anger or anything like that, I will intervene.
Yeah. And well, that is exactly what happened. So he kind of pushes his way through the back porch. I don't even remember exactly what was said. I just remember him trying to force his way in. And I'm trying to shut the slider. He's trying to jam it open while he's cursing, saying whatever. Like literally a blur. I don't even remember exactly what I was saying. I was just know I was scared. My daughter was scared. And I knew you were in the bathroom and I was just trying to avoid any altercation that we could. So he ends up literally forcing, like, I want to say practically breaking my slider because I think he broke those little like burglar bars.
Oh, I know what you're talking
you
about.
lift up.
Yeah, the plastic ones.
He like broke it to come in, cursing at me, saying everything. I'm pretty sure he then pushed me or did something. Hands were put on me. I just know that.
No, you said don't touch me.
And it was enough for you to open the bathroom door and say, wait a minute, like, what the fuck is going on? And
actually, that's not what I said.
I don't even remember what you said.
Hey, man, I don't think there's any reason to fight right now.
I do remember it now.
And I put my hands like I was in a surrender mode, like because I'm not a fighter. For people who don't know, fighting is a last resort type of a thing for me. And yeah, as I was mid sentence, he sucker punches me.
Literally ran like you guys are probably 7 feet apart, 8 feet apart. He just runs right up, sucker punches you. And
that's when I black out.
Then all I know is you guys are brawling. Okay. Now you're halfway in the bathroom. I remember you, which I think is why you were hurt, because you guys fell into my bathtub.
Yeah, my ribs hit the lip of the bathtub.
Yeah, you guys are in my bathtub. I'm screaming, yelling.
Pretty sure I broke
my dog is barking. My daughter's crying. I'm trying to break you guys up, pull you apart. I end up obviously calling the cops. As I'm on the phone with the cops, this guy is literally yelling, we have drugs in the house. We're doing this. We're doing that. He was the only one with drugs on him.
Listen to this. This is the craziest shit I think I've ever experienced.
Okay. The house that I'm in, he lived with us. Okay. He literally put holes in my walls. He was a very violent, awful person. And there's a hole in my wall from him slamming a door. This guy decides to take his stash of drugs, hide them in the hole in the wall, and then tell the cops that we have drugs in the house. They were literally there for like hours.
Yeah, because it was the hole in the wall where the door slams open. So like so the doorknob, the door handle, it's like exactly lined up with where the wall is, because as soon as he came back hours later, this was when my brother and I were just keeping an eye out, making sure nothing happened. He did show up after he got out of jail.
Yeah.
And all he did was grab his drugs and leave.
Literally. That was it. After he was screaming to the cops, trying to tell the cops when they came that I'm a drug addict. I have a bunch of things in my house, paraphernalia, this and that. Doing anything he could to take the heat off of him. Clearly, we were not in the wrong in any way. He came uninvited. I had text messages of me saying, do not come to my house. I don't want to speak to you. That never stopped him before.
It's a perfect example of like living a delusional life.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he had created his own reality,
Correct.
number one. And yeah.
You became the bad guy.
Yeah. And I learned to accept it and to not feel like I needed to constantly defend myself to other people, because he was the type that would love to go on social media
and blame it on you.
Me. I was this, I was that. I did this, I did that. I cheated on him. I slept my way to the top at my job. I mean, complete, utter bullshit.
Anything to make you look bad.
And I used to feel like I needed to defend myself. And I finally started to accept when you're dealing with a narcissist, that is always what's going to happen. And the people that know me, know me. The people that know our situation know. And I don't have to explain or defend myself to any of them. Because at the end of the day, he was freaking crazy. And he caused me and my daughter so much trauma. I mean, we're still dealing with it. And it's
absolutely.
5 years later.
That's what a lot of this tonight I want to talk about too. It's like just how that one relationship has left an imprint on both of you for quite a while. And as someone with their own trauma and their own like baggage, it's just really awesome to be with you and like have these experiences to work through because I think both of us had these relationships where it wasn't focused on growing. It was just nothing but resentment, anger, confusion.
Mm-hmm. So I want to say, and I've read this somewhere, I don't know exactly how it's quoted, but a healthy relationship after a like hardcore toxic relationship is actually the hardest relationship to be in.
That's on Facebook or TikTok
because
somewhere.
you're literally just, you're so on guard and you're waiting for all the bad shit to happen. And you're just so used to somebody, like you're so used to walking on eggshells and being on edge and feeling like you need to constantly be worrying about the other person and what do they think? How do they feel? Is it going to be a good day? Is it going to be a bad day? Like, do I need to hide this part of myself? Do I need to hide that part of myself? So I feel like we're still in a work in progress 5 years later, but we've come a super long way. And I truly do know now what a healthy relationship looks like.
Well, we're working on it.
But I'm just saying, I do know what it's supposed to look like.
Correct. And
because I didn't have one prior.
And what I mean by like, we're working on it is in those situations where you are literally fighting for survival, you pick up these automatic behaviors, your reactions, your responses to these triggers. Like we talk about triggers a lot, but I guess we never really dive into what's it look like. And what it looks like is something from your past that is reoccurring right now in a different situation, but your brain doesn't know the difference. So right off the bat, you will go into that defense mode, and whatever reaction you created in that survival mode will pop up in default. So when I was a kid, the thing that always pushed me to the edge or to my red line was my parents. So I remember literally always looking like a crazy person because I was having to defend myself against people who never really tried to understand me.
I feel like you're constantly backed into a corner.
Correct.
And then they're reacting to your reaction.
Correct. Meanwhile, it was their actions that put you in that corner that made you have to survive, essentially. But when all that passes, the behavior doesn't go away, especially if that behavior has been something that you've been experiencing for years, in my case, years, and in your case, years. Right. But it doesn't have to take long to wire your brain to survival mechanisms because our brains are going to survive, or rather it wants to survive. Mm-hmm. So rewiring them is extremely hard because I have to take all of the shit she should have said to JC, and she has to take all of the shit I should have said or will say, like to my mom or my ex-girlfriend, whoever it was in the position of the abuser, I guess you could say. I don't like to use that term towards my son's mom and like even my mom. Mm-hmm. But the reality is it's like verbal abuse, no matter how small it is, if you do it over a long period of time, it's going to traumatize someone.
For sure. It has its effects. Mm-hmm. And we still feel them to this day.
And so when going into this healthy relationship, especially because we're both from traumatic backgrounds, we both have to try to hold back our reaction, and then dig into why we reacted the way we acted. It's the hardest thing ever, especially because when you're in a triggered state, there is no logical thinking. So like my goal is if I'm in a triggered state, I can sense I'm in a triggered state and I just try to go away. I try to walk away because I know I don't have control if she's going to say something and I'll just react because I'm already triggered. So it has nothing to do with what she's saying at this point. It's all about what I need to say to make myself right in the situation because she can't understand me because that's how it was my whole life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and vice versa.
Correct.
So when you decide to, or anybody for that matter, decide to actually be aware and say, I need to step away because I know I'm too angry, it's not going to solve anything. I still have to work on myself in the sense of I'm going to chase you down because wait a minute, you're going to hear me out because I have constantly been in a place where I felt like I was on the defense. Like I needed to defend myself. I needed to stand up for myself. I needed to make the other person understand what I'm saying. I'm not crazy. I'm just yelling and like, I just want to be heard.
It's funny because it's like, usually you're an avoidant type.
Yes.
So it's like when you're not triggered, you avoid it. When you are triggered, you're forcing
100%.
it.
I'll follow your ass around.
She has learned. She does not follow my.
I am a lot better. But yeah, it was something about feeling like I was being dismissed, essentially, and
it wasn't that I was trying to dismiss her. I just knew that there's no reasoning after.
100%. And I needed to also learn to respect that. Like you're actually taking the step to like
recoup.
Correct. And make sure you're not overreacting. You're not saying things out of anger and that we're actually not just going in a circle because that's what happens.
I'm really good at catching circles and repetitive, mistakes, but repetitive like arguments and stuff like that. Definitely also knowing your part in it too, because I just remember there's a lot of perspectives that I've grown through. And the biggest one being is like most of my issues with you have always been deep rooted like wounds of rejection and abandonment essentially. And to like understand that and even if you do understand it, you can't prevent it from still happening. Like,
yeah,
because I just remember saying, wow, this has nothing to do with her. This is mostly to do with me. But it was after all of those like times we've got triggered and we're still reacting to the triggers because we've been dating 5 years and we haven't, it's really funny because we didn't fight at all.
Really? We didn't.
Until like, it was until we were asked to find a new place to live given 2 months notice. And that kind of put us through a loop because we definitely couldn't find anywhere to live because it was just as the market was
going
skyrocketing. We went from a $1,200 for 3-bed, 2-bath, huge kitchen, dining room, backyard, this, and
beautiful
that.
Home.
I think it's at $2,000 now.
Yeah.
That's what that's what they're doing for it now. And that happened everywhere all at once. We couldn't find anything. And another thing that I really wanted to talk about was how we were fortunate. We were so fortunate. We had my brother-in-law and my sister who have a really beautiful home and can fit 2 families, and they took us in. But I don't think either of us were prepared for.
It was, yes, like you said, super fortunate, so lucky. I mean, honestly, and still to this day, so incredibly grateful because they took us in with no expectations, like wanting us to be able to get on our feet.
And gave us space, like
100%.
Most of the issues that we're about to go through were more our issues than theirs.
It didn't make it any easier to be okay with like, yeah, honestly, just feeling like you're failing your family, even though it was out of our control because we were renting a home under the impression we were about to renew our lease. Got told completely unexpectedly that we needed to move, needed to find a place. Had a very short amount of time to do so. No money saved.
Nothing. Because we thought we had a whole nother year.
Yeah, we literally thought we were secure in our home and just focusing on that. But anyways, it didn't make it. I just remember having an extremely difficult time, like my pride feeling bruised, all of it, having to say we are going to live with family and like having to take the space away from our kids and just all of it. Just literally feeling like we work so hard and we still have nothing to show for it. And it was super hard. Yeah, I was not okay with it. I obviously was still grateful and was trying to cope with it, but I had a chip on my shoulder.
She was coping with it all right.
Full shutdown / survival mode.
Yeah.
Just trying to power through.
And so did I. It was for both of us. I think it wasn't that we had to live with family. I think it was how little control we have over what goes on around us. Something that I already try to like truly practice because it's a practice.
Yeah.
But something that you were not used to.
No.
At all. And but the fact that it came from someone close to me is what really triggered me the most. And it was probably the deepest wound that I've experienced because it's like, here's your family. Oh, but now you got to find somewhere else to live in this non-livable market that was just created over the last 2 months. And the whole reason why we're in this situation is because you're trying to benefit from that market, which is fine. That's cool. Whatever. Don't tell me one thing and then do the other.
Yeah, we kind of felt, literally like, I can't think of the word right now, but just.
I felt a little betrayed.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
True.
And then not only betrayed, well, this is a separate problem, but like the biggest issue I had was I knew there wasn't truth being spoken.
Right.
And I've told you like 2 weeks before or the week of, something like that. I said, something's not right.
Yeah, the vibe's off. So I don't like the way this is going.
I feel like we're not going to be here long. Like it was a weird shift in vibration, I guess you could say.
It was a huge shock. Honestly, at the end of the day, it was a huge shock and panic mode. And now, mind you, yes, we had your family that was able to take us in, but we still had a dog that they were not able to take in.
Yeah, we had to go through a lot of hurdles.
And that's like a whole nother separate thing that we had to deal with and our kids had to deal with. The fact that, we couldn't take our family pet with us. We were having a super hard time finding anybody that would take him in. Like up until the day of, thinking we had to go like take him to a shelter or something.
That's right, your brother.
And let him go.
That's right.
And then my brother ended up stepping up because he realized like, oh wow, we have literally no options. I know this is your dog. I know you love him like your own child. We will take him. And that was one small relief in like the mountain of things that we were dealing with.
That still was unstable because that's another issue.
Yeah. But again, still very grateful. Like we had a place for our dog to go.
It all worked out.
And
it definitely all worked out.
And now, mind you, we moved in with family, but like you said, they had a home that was large enough that we still did have our own space. I mean, Sabrina had her own space. Peter had his own space. We had our own room. We're very lucky for that. It wasn't like we moved in with family. I was
ready to go to a shelter.
And had to sleep on a couch or all of us share a room. Like we did each. They were very good about making sure we still had our own little space. And that was amazing in itself.
It was a blessing. Like that's the only way to put it.
100%. 100%. It doesn't make living with family any easier. It doesn't make the transition any easier.
That's why we were talking about it because our relationship was really, we didn't experience an argument for the first 2 years at least. And then I remember the biggest issue, like not the biggest issue, the biggest event that we had to experience together was the passing of Robin, your stepmom.
Yes.
And
yeah, that was rough.
And that was when you really shut down.
100%. Now that was even before the move.
This was still in our first house.
Yeah. So
I remember the phone call.
That was a very unexpected day. I feel like I'm going to get emotional.
If you want, we can just graze over it.
But yeah, just literally being home one day. I remember we were literally sitting on the couch. It was my brother's birthday, and we got a phone call. My brother calling me, screaming, crying, say he just found our mom in her bed, and she was no longer alive. So we had to go deal with that. I don't even know where I was going with that.
We were just kind of talking about
how it affected
your emotional bandwidth.
It was okay. Now, mind you, I've experienced so much loss. I was fortunate enough to have 3 parents. So I had my dad, my mom, and my stepmom. My stepmom was still in my head, my mom. That was who I called my mom. That was who I lived with. My biological mom lived out of state. She was the first to pass. That was in 2008. Definitely a hard experience still. Then we lost my dad in 2013. And then we lost my stepmom in 2020.
Shoot, I don't know.
Gosh, wow.
No, it was 20.
Yeah, it was
3 years ago?
I think it was
21.
21.
Yeah, because I met her. Yes.
COVID, yeah. So either way, 2021. So my brothers and I are literally boom, 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 boom. And now here we are, no parents, just literally just us. And so I feel like I hadn't even properly dealt with my dad and my biological mom.
Well, you understand that now. You didn't then.
100%. 100%. I thought I was good. I thought I grieved. I thought I lived. I did my thing, and moved forward, or however you want to put it. But then when Robin passed, that was just a ton of bricks. And not to mention, super hard on Sabrina. Because
how old was Sabrina?
Sabrina was
15. Oh, wait, which one?
Yeah, with Robin. Yeah. So, I mean, my dad hit her hard too, but she was still pretty young. She was
hits a little differently.
Yeah, I want to say she was 9. And that still hit hard, but I feel like she wasn't mature enough to fully grasp the gravity of it. Now, 15 years old, when her Grammy passes, that's an entirely different thing. It was just, it was a whirlwind for all of us. And then not to mention me feeling super, super bad for my brother because it was his birthday.
Yeah, he is definitely has to carry a lot for the rest of his life.
Literally, not only did he hear about her passing, but he was the one who found her.
With his family on his birthday.
Girlfriend and their 3 kids walking in thinking they were surprising her because they were supposed to do birthday breakfast. And just me not even really allowing myself to comprehend it or grieve or anything because I was so worried about Sabrina. I was so worried about CJ. I was so worried about Matt. My other brother, Matt,
and you're the
literally
oldest.
Lost his best friend the day before she died. So we're just what else can we take? And then, yes, I am the oldest and just always been mother mode regardless of when our parents were alive or not. Those are my babies just as much as my daughter was. But just feeling like I needed to stay strong for them and to be there for them and to take care and to plan my 3rd funeral. By the time I was 30 was insane. Insane. And I don't wish that on anybody. It was super hard. Clearly I'm still affected by it.
You always will be.
But it was a hard time for me. And I literally do think I 100% shut down, checked out for a while. And I think it took years, at least 2 years, for me to finally start to talking to you and stuff and digging into realizing how much I did actually shut down and how much I really did just carry it around without fully acknowledging that I was carrying it around.
You want to take a little breather?
I just need a tissue and I don't have one.
I don't think we got any. We gotta get. I knew I should have brought some.
We're expecting this.
But there is an outline.
We're good. All right.
So that happened in like the first year and a half of our relationship. I want to say it was closer to 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was about a year of numbness, let's just say, for both of us, because my whole thing is I see this happening to her. I know it's happening to her. I kind of understand what's going on in her head in the sense of someone dealing with the loss of a loved one. And I keep trying to give her advice, but I don't want to be overbearing because she still it's grieving. But then she just goes into like work mode, and it was work. So then it was even harder to talk about these heavier things, because when you're dealing with someone who works over 40 hours a week, just like full-time job is 40 hours. That's still too much. But anybody who works over that, which is what she was doing, when they get off of work, they are not mentally, physically, or anything available.
Correct.
Like they are kaput. And to understand this, because I've done it, I've worked it, I know myself, I would always give her space. And then I would start to just avoid things, essentially, because I was afraid of her triggered response. Because I've done it, I tried it once, and it was a bad
Well, yeah,
reaction.
This is all also during, I think I'm okay.
Correct.
Like, I'm fine. What do you mean? Nothing's wrong with me. Like, we need money. I need to work. I need to do this. I need to do that. And it took a long time for me to realize, like, yeah, I was totally avoiding anything and everything and throwing myself into work and taking myself away from my family and anything that was important to me under the illusion that I just needed to provide. And I just needed to, literally just provide and work and numb myself, not address anything, not deal with anything, not face anything, as long as I'm taking care of my family. But really, it wasn't really taking care of my family. I was just bringing home a paycheck.
Luckily, I was able to step in. Like, this is when things were still going really good for us. And I was able to, I even remember you taking a break from work.
I did, yeah.
And I was working full time, and you were only working a couple days a week.
And it was really nice. But I also remember during that time me telling you, like,
you can't do this.
I feel so depressed. I don't know what's wrong with me. Correct, yes. But yeah, just feeling like I don't know what to do with myself. I'm not okay. I constantly felt emotional. I was like freaking drowning myself in social media.
Also dealing with motherhood of 2, because we had my son at full time at that point, and you've always had Sabrina. So you were also at home with the kids all day, which...
Yeah, while you were working pretty much prime time. I want to say your shift then was like 12 to 9.
It's awful.
So yeah, I was doing the drive 2 kids to separate schools, pick them up, homework with, a 7-year-old.
A 7-year-old that needs like 100% focus, or your attention. Not focus. He needs focus, yes, but he needs your attention.
Correct. Yeah, he definitely needed a lot of one-on-one time. But I also have a teenage daughter who is walking around like she doesn't need a lot of one-on-one time, dealing with her own stuff, also dealing with the same grief and other things that are affecting her. But me just, not even fully being aware of how much she needed me. So then I feel like she was also dealing with the fact that she was sharing her mother with another child, which I'm sure affected her. What we know affected her.
Yeah, we've talked about it. Actually, we're going to have her on the show too, so we can kind of touch base on it again, because I think it has a very important, valuable perspective, especially when it comes to step siblings coming together.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't hard, or it wasn't easy for either one of them. I mean, they both came from being an only child, being the main focus, to then having to share everything and all the attention, even though there's an age gap. it didn't really matter. It still affected them each.
And you would see it. Like it was visible and tangible.
I feel like there was a little while there where we didn't even know if they liked each other. Like we were like, what is happening? I mean, a 7-year-old and like a 15-year-old just
fighting.
Literally.
It was, but that was me and my brothers. That was my older brother.
And I remember fighting with my siblings too. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just an adjustment. It was an adjustment for every single person in the home. While we're each individually dealing with our own shit.
So
heavy shit.
Everything was going really, really good in the sense of like, I was able to pick up the slack. I was trying to give you your time. But then you started working, you picked up the manager job.
Yeah. So I went from working 1 day a week, literally working Friday nights, bartending, just making that little extra spending money, to being offered an assistant manager position and diving full force in, working 50, 60 hours a week with an hour commute, never, ever being home.
And I worked with it for a little bit.
And in the beginning, I was super excited because I was like, this is what I need. Like, I need to work. That's just always been me. I've been
I was able to drop down to part-time.
Super independent person, feeling like, yeah, like a workaholic. Throwing myself into work was my coping mechanism, essentially. And it was how I dealt with anything. Wasn't dealing with anything, but it was how I thought I was dealing with
Literally wasn't dealing with anything. Like doctor appointments, missed. This, missed. Nothing. She couldn't do anything because she was working so goddamn much that she couldn't take care of her personal life.
Yeah. And I definitely did not have a balance whatsoever. And I went from never, ever missing a soccer game to then missing 3-4 soccer games.
No, only going to 2 or 3.
Right. Like that is another huge transition and adjustment for Sabrina, who had to deal with, I had always had like a 7 to 2 job her entire childhood.
You went from breakfast to dinner.
Correct. Up until she was 15, 16 years old. And then all of a sudden now I am literally gone from 8 a.m. till 10, 11, sometimes midnight. Sometimes I'd be home at 2 a.m. just because of the commute and everything. And yeah, just literally then, not to mention you're feeling like a single parent.
Definitely felt like a single parent
because I'm never home. We just literally switched roles.
Mm-hmm.
And
homework was not easy for me.
It's not. That was another thing. And I also was super defensive and difficult when it came to all of you. Like, I felt like I almost had like an intervention from you and Sabrina, like telling me like, you are working too much.
Like you're missing everything.
Yeah. Like,
well, I've always also, before we started dating, this was something I learned when I was in a tent, like homeless, because when I was homeless in the tent, I don't know why.
One more time. Homeless in a tent.
In a tent. It's because I thought I was going to leave Peter behind at one point in my life when he was a baby. Mm-hmm. I thought he was better off without me as a kid, like growing up, because I saw my parents and myself, and I didn't want to project that onto my son. Now, when I came to realize like, holy shit, that's going to leave a bigger wound than me being able to talk about these wounds because we developed a relationship, so on and so forth. I put my tent next to his house. So I was able to see him every day, or every day that I was like able to.
Right.
And there was definitely a big shift in like our relationship during that time, of course, because you're seeing him more. But I forgot why I was talking about that.
Oh no, I did too.
It's gone. It'll come back. I made a commitment to always make my priority, me first, making sure my health and stuff is okay, because if my health isn't okay, then I will be projecting those things that my parents did to me.
Right.
So my health, and then my family's health, and then making sure I am doing all the things that I can to put my family, especially like my son at this point, first.
Making him feel like he is the priority.
Correct. And if he's not that, like, if he's uncomfortable, I'll change it. But like, if I have a job that cuts into his life, I know that these years are not redoable. So for 18 fucking years, I can put any selfish desires aside and make sure his life is first. Now, seeing you work as much as you did.
Well,
and then
let me just say, my logic was honestly complete opposite, which I do not.
I know it's like the sacrifice.
I do not agree with. And if you could go back, you could go back. But my logic was, I just need to provide. I just need to make sure she doesn't struggle like my family struggled. I just need to make sure she has everything she needs, everything she wants. Meanwhile, all she wanted was me and time with me. And there was a large window where I was not available and I was not giving it to her. And I regret that. But I'm trying to be aware of it, acknowledge it.
And the truth is, like, we do our best, and you were doing the best you could with the information that you had. And giving.
Single mom, never ever
for
being
18 years now, like not
being able to depend on anybody else. So just constantly feeling like, I just need to always have a roof over her head. Need to make sure there's food in the fridge. Making sure she has things that she wants. I mean, she was spoiled. She definitely had material things and stuff, but she didn't always have the time with me.
Also, she was never told no.
Correct. Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's like so many things.
Yeah, there's a
lot of things.
We could pick on that, but we will save that for another episode. But really seeing it all unfold and then knowing the passing of your mom has had effect on you and on her, and me thinking that she's already dealing with stuff. And then Mikey telling me that I needed to be out. That was my breaking point. That was when I stopped thinking about everybody else, and it was survive.
Yeah, I mean, when we moved in with your sister, there was not only a shift in all of us, but a noticeable shift in you. Now, I know I had a shift. I know Sabrina had a shift. We know Peter had a shift.
My shifts are very visible.
I wasn't necessarily aware of my shift, but it was still there. But your shift was so noticeable, like to me, especially. And just knowing, well, honestly, not knowing, like, what the hell is going on with you? Like, you're so different. You're so irritable. You're so on edge. And with all of those things, you also, I don't want to say lashing out at me, because I don't necessarily feel like you were lashing out, because there was things that you were picking on that were justified, but it was the way that it was all being done and dealt with.
Already having tried to like talk to you about
Correct.
it.
Yeah. Me completely shutting you down, and
that lashing
in
out
denial
was more of like it was me being triggered and then having to explain to you as if you were my mom.
Yeah.
Like not realizing that this yelling isn't going to help because you love, but not realizing that at all. And the awareness that I was in a triggered state and in a survival state did not hit me until we were about 5 months into my brother and my sister.
Yeah. It was rough. It was a rough time. We dealt with Peter having a hard time because we also were living with 2 other children that were younger than him. So his behavior was like night and day. And I just remember that also being a huge trigger for me, for you, for us as like co-parents and as a couple. It was rough.
There was a lot of adjusting to.
Well, just living with a completely different family that has
different schedules, different parenting
different
types,
everything,
all of it.
Everything. And not that one way is right or wrong, just different. It was just different. There was different rules. There was different guidelines. There was just different structure. And we're trying to maintain our structure and our family unit while also being respectful of their rules and their structure.
Environment and all of that.
And just all trying to coexist. And I mean, there was never any huge drama or issues with them.
No.
Like, I feel like, again, like so grateful. It was a huge learning experience for us.
That was our biggest, I think, learning growth spurt. That was our
sure.
biggest growth spurt.
I think that, so living there was when you completely made the like night and day switch of how you wanted to parent Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it took me a little while to get on board because, like I said, I was just triggered.
Well, and
constantly.
It was living with, I hate to say it, but it was living with parents who parented like my mom and dad, because it was my sister. Mm-hmm. So she's gonna be just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
It was seeing her and knowing that like, this doesn't work for me or my kid, because my kid is me and this already doesn't work. So it was my conviction in knowing I wanted to be a different parent.
Right.
It was knowing that there is better out there. I will learn it. And I did start to learn it.
I mean, 100%. I just remember being like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know how you're doing it.
There was so much resistance.
The patience that you practiced and the like constant like reassurance of like, this is what needs to be done. This is what's going to help him. And when I say like being triggered, it was because there was temper tantrums. There was
a lot of emotional outburst.
Correct. Yeah, that's the exact way to put it.
And then just like he's a kid, and then fighting, also a kid who's super sensitive,
fighting for attention.
Correct.
In a house full of adults, and all of them wanting to be the center of attention. Correct. Or any of attention, because they're all kind of similar in the sense.
Very much so.
And also Peter being the type of child that does tend to mimic behaviors.
Not mimic. He'll
literally like
adapt
them. He takes them on. So now we're dealing with a 3 and 4 year old
inside a 7-year-old body.
But we have a 7-year-old, and he's wanting to now revert back to being a 3-year-old because he sees, oh, well, everybody thinks they're so cute. Everybody thinks he thinks they get so much attention. Everybody loves the way, Dominic acts and this and that, and him trying any way he can to get that attention, whether it be positive or negative. But yeah, I just remember not feeling like I had the patience or the capacity to deal with it, and it being a true struggle.
Mm-hmm. It still is.
In the very same time frame, we were dealing with my daughter going through a hardcore depression. And
to say the least, like she came to us requesting to be 72-hour evaluated, like a 72-hour evaluation. She came to us, someone who is against being Baker acted unless of certain circumstances. But she came to us and she said her therapist thinks that she needs this and that she needs to go right now, like right now. And I just remember knowing that that was the last thing that she fucking needed, because those places are more traumatic than what she's experiencing right now. And sure enough, it was. But we were, we didn't want her to think that we were not going to get her help. Like,
right.
if she's in a state,
we wanted to know, like, she's asking for it.
Correct.
And we wanted to respect that.
So as a parent, like, you kind of have to swallow that shit and put your pride aside and be like, well, all right, this is your choice. Because she was 16 at the time. So she's getting closer to the age of adulthood. Mm-hmm. And a decision like this, where she's so convicted, I said, okay, like we'll do it because this is what you want. But I strongly suggest you rethink it. And she was dead set, which is why I didn't even really try to convince her one way or the other.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember that therapy session. We decided to go sit down with her therapist, and she shared how she was feeling. She shared the thoughts she was having, and sure as hell, they made a call to say that she should be Baker acted. I want to say they didn't have any reason to like physically take her. Not mandatory, like we need to take her and hospitalize her, but it was strongly recommended. So we took her therapist's advice and we found a facility in another county, and we went and I checked her in, and it was, another worst 3 days of my life, because I just felt like I failed her, number one, because she wanted to literally be hospitalized to deal with her
emotions and like whatever she was going through and feeling like she was actually a danger to herself. That was how she felt. And that's so hard to cope with as a parent, and just feeling like you're so helpless. You don't even know what to do for them except for kind of just respect her wishes and make her feel like
we're listening.
Yeah, and I'm on your side and I want to help you in any way that I can. And if you feel like this is going to benefit you, I will support you. It ended up being a horrible experience for all of us. I mean,
And this was before Chris or after?
This was before.
Because I think it was a couple weeks after, right?
Literally. So yeah, we deal with her being hospitalized, me having to get phone calls from her crying, like she wants to come home. This is awful. You know, she's around people that make her feel uncomfortable. They're just giving her medication. Just the worst possible things you could hear as a parent. I did end up being able to sign her out. I want to say it was 72 hours. Mm-hmm. I think they had wanted to keep her a little longer, but I was able to sign her out. And we went from there. And then literally weeks later was when we then had to deal with
Chris.
Yeah, your brother. Pretty much essentially going through the same thing, mm-hmm. just in a much more severe state. Because he actually went into psychosis. Yeah. And his was, not an option. It was the only possible situation that could happen for his, like, to make sure he's okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I was going with
that. Just talking about, like, what we were experiencing.
Yeah, so this is all in 6 months.
Not even. We
don't even have our own home.
We were there for 5 months.
Okay, 5 months. We're living with family. We are dealing with one child literally having emotional outbursts, reverting
constantly.
Backward.
Like school issues.
Yes,
like getting phone calls from school.
Then we have our other child who is now depressed and feeling like she's a danger to herself, having to hospitalize her. She gets out. And then we have your brother, and we have to go Baker Act him because he's in a psychosis, and we're not even sure if he's, like, safe because he was out of state. And everybody being scared to know, like, what's going to happen because nobody's there with him. Just hit after hit after hit.
It was rough, all while we're still already on survival mode.
Yeah, we're trying to literally just get by day to day, trying to make sure we're working and saving money to find our own place while also trying to worry about ourselves and worry about our kids and worry about the family. It was rough. And it took a long time, even after we moved out.
Yeah, it took about 6 months after moving out.
And getting our own place finally and getting our dog back and having everybody in the same house and being in our own space, we still needed to, like, acclimate. We were just...
And then when we did... that's when everything else hit. That's when all the events living there hit. And that's when we realized we were doing the same thing that, like, we were doing what trauma victims do. We were surviving and then feeling attacked when someone approached you on your behavior because you didn't know it was from someone who is genuinely trying to care for you.
And that's kind of how we had started this conversation, is because we had never really fought before. But when we were in that environment and dealing with all of these outside issues, we found each other not being on the same page, lashing out at one another.
Constantly.
Not like, just...
It was a constant.
Not even feeling like we, like, knew each other for a moment there.
Well, literally, I think that was my words. It's like, I don't even know you. And you don't even know yourself.
Yeah. And me also feeling like, who are you? Like, what are these outbursts? Like, this is not you. I don't ever see you act this way. I've never, like, felt this energy from you or whatever, but just...
And it was a different type of energy. The energy I was feeling was that of when I was 13 years old.
Yeah. Well, you were also living with family again. And...
There's something about living with my family. It's not their fault. It's just like a wire in my mind.
You're thinking backwards, like when you were a child and you did constantly have to
defend myself or walk on edge, like that whole environment we were discussing earlier.
Right. Yeah. It was rough and it was crazy. But a lot of learning. I mean, we're still like I think realizing certain aspects of that time frame in our relationship and in our life. But I just got distracted.
It's okay. I keep looking at the time because we got a couple minutes left, but definitely going to have you on again.
I know, this was really cool. I liked it.
I
was super nervous, but it feels really good to like just sit here and talk about just normal shit. Literally things
Especially
that we've been dealing with.
Because we don't talk about our life to people. Like even family, we'll keep all this shit under wraps. I do it for different reasons. She does it because that's how she always has been. But like, I don't really like to talk about certain things with certain people, and I don't. So this will be the first time anybody's really hearing about
our side on it. And that time frame in our life and how everything just hit so hard. And
how we weren't coping with it. Like we weren't able, I had no idea what was going on. I even said like, I don't know. I don't know.
I literally remember a point being like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yep. We broke up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little later, but like it was the same incident. It was that
kind of carried over. Correct. Yeah. And we swept it under the rug for a little bit. And then that ended up being dealt with too. But yeah, just really being faced with so many hard questions and like serious situations and thinking like, I don't know how to deal with this with myself. I definitely don't know how to deal with it with you. And rough. But here we are.
Able to talk about our shit.
Yeah.
And now we understand though. Like it's just understanding.
And also like taking like our own forms of accountability and just being aware and just realizing again, there were a lot of things that were out of our control. And I was never taught how to deal with anything. And I was taught you don't deal with anything and you sweep it under the rug and you pretend you put on a brave face and you just move on.
Yeah. And so was I.
I literally learned in my 30s that is not okay.
From me.
It literally, yes, you will get full credit because I didn't even think you were supposed to talk about these things. Like me, it was just, I'm strong. I'm tough. Nobody's going to know anything is affecting me. And unfortunately, that has rubbed off on my child because she, again, has that same mentality of like, I'm tough. I got this. No signs of weakness, but that's not okay. And it's not healthy. And we all need to talk about our shit and we all need to find ways to deal with it. Find that one person that you can truly and openly talk about it with.
And really be able to have those reactions and have somebody talk you down instead of rev you up.
Yes, knowing that you're having a reaction because of something and it's not always personal. It's not always like
an attack.
Correct. Which, we still have to talk ourselves out of sometimes.
We are still a part of this cycle because we're talking 30 plus years of having to wire our brains a certain way. And now we found people like a person who can help us untangle that. But
and wants to be better and do better and wants to learn new behaviors.
From our behaviors.
Right. Yeah. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
I'm so glad I was here. Yeah, we got to definitely do it again.
For sure.
That was super cool.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up.
That's it.
You guys have a great day.
The end.
The end.